Hello, everybody. I'm back. It's your buddy Isaac, and I'm going to be doing a reaction video. I don't usually do politics a lot, but as a guy, because this is kind of a topic that kind of affects me to an extent, just simply because of well, me being a dude, we're going to react to Shoe on Head's male loneliness epidemic video. Now, I do really like the fact that she has the suicide hotline's number down here, call 988. I don't know if that was her particularly or if that's YouTube, but I'm definitely gonna recommend if you are having situations mentally, especially if you are thinking of self deletion, please call that number if you're in the U.S. 988. It's I've never had to personally call. Thankfully, I've never had any kind of thought to that degree. But there are, especially in the topic that we're fixing to watch, there's a lot of cases where, yeah, there's going to be a lot of people who are in that kind of boat. So, without further ado, let's hear a little bit about Shoe on Head. I actually like this creator. I hope she doesn't mind. I'm kind of too small for her to really respond or care if I even ask. So, eh.
The men are not okay. That's right, folks. The men are not okay. The men have no friends, no girlfriend, no college education, no money, are breaking their legs and inserting metal rods into their bones to be a few inches taller, and listening to AI Batman help them overcome their pornography addictions.
It's not just AI Batman either. There's actually plenty of videos too of Joshua Graham from Fallout New Vegas. He's a character that was kind of like this Mormon preacher character, and people do a lot of AI videos of him too. Doing the same thing.
Turns out the society that was built by and allegedly for men has indeed let them down. Now you might be thinking, oh look, another boo-hoo poor men video by Shoe on Head. Yes. And if you have a problem with that, tune into literally anything else.
The man question.
Men are in a crisis, and it seems nobody really cares. And the people who do care just seem like the people who want to sell them shit. Not me. And thank you, the viewer, as always, for not skipping the ad.
To add that.
Why are men and boys struggling? And what should we do about it?
A few new studies have come out that have shown that young men are more lonely and single than ever before. But it's not just men. The women and children, too. It's predicted 45% of women will be single and childless by 2030. But according to the media, this is a good thing. The chic...
Really? Oh, the rise of the she economy is good news for these retailers. Study.
Economy is booming, as they say. And meanwhile, men being single is treated like this.
New study explains why some single men are having a hard time finding a new partner.
Some of the music that they listen to speaks very derogatory.
Right. Yeah, men, stop listening to that derogatory music. Then maybe you...
Oh God, the boomer takes. Oh, the boomer takes. They hurt so much. I'm trying to do more react, less going into rants. Because I did that last time I did something similar with Asthma Gold. Like, that was something you guys never got to see because we spent, for a 30-minute video, okay? I spent 30 minutes ranting and we had watched 5 minutes of the video. I don't think so. I don't think that's how a reaction video should work. Just saying. I definitely have a lot of my opinions, so I'm going to try and... There will be mini rants instead of really long rants. That's the goal here. Little bite-sized rant versus giant one. So we can actually finish the video.
You won't be single. I don't know, I think men and women being single and lonely kind of shows there might be something wrong with society. Perhaps...
You think? Okay. I know she was gonna like give her a thing, but personally, I think that one of our major problems with our society is people don't seem to realize how much of our society is actually based not on facts or any kind of information. It's mostly based, if you really look at it historically, on commercials and sitcoms over the last 100 years. So, for example, okay, the idea of one person basically funding the whole family is a relatively new idea that came directly out of the 20th century. Most families in the late 19th to backward were, say with me now, poor. And they were so poor, they couldn't even afford flooring for their houses. These people lived on dirt floors in shanty towns. And things were so bad that you literally had the kids, mom, dad, everyone pitched in to work. Everyone had to work to be able to take care of the family. Now, you go mid-19th century backwards, you also run into the thing that arranged marriages were pretty common, because back then you're talking about the idea that kids were basically considered property of their parents. So basically, you never, even whether you were male or female, you didn't get to choose who you got married to. Mom and dad did. Marriages were transactional. The idea of people getting married because they actually liked each other, relatively new idea.
Perhaps we should address this, not just wave it off as empowering or pathetic. According to several different articles, I love how that's my source, I read about it on the internet, research shows that people from individualist countries show a greater sense of loneliness. This is linked to socioeconomic development, increased education, a shift towards white-collar jobs, and urbanization. Japan also has an issue with loneliness. In fact, they have a whole movement of people they call the hikikomori. Did I say that right?
Hikikomori, or otaku. Yeah, the hikikomori. Yeah, these are people that basically live in their homes and never ever leave. And usually they become what's called an otaku, which is somebody who is really obsessed with something. But they basically do not interact with communities or anything like that because they don't see a point. They prefer to be pretty much left alone. Now, my buddy Rollmaster, who reportedly lived in Japan for 10 years, probably could give you a better idea of what all of that's like. He may or may not comment on this video. We'll see how that goes.
I don't care. Basically, postmodern.
One of the coolest things
Go
about
away,
design
ads!
Hermits. Mostly young men who completely withdraw from society, secluding themselves in their rooms for months and years at a time.
There
In
you go.
2010, there was an estimated 700,000 hikikomori in Japan. And today, it's estimated to be about 1.55 million.
Damn!
Things like this, people aren't having babies, so Japan's population has been in a sharp decline since 2011. It's gotten so bad that Japan even produces videos of live-action women staring into the camera to help the hikikomori learn to cope with eye contact and reintegrate them back into society. So basically, if you want to know America's future, look no further than Japan. A lot of people, including myself, blame this partially on the rise of social media and technology. RIP.
Yeah, that's something I have to disagree with her on. Social media didn't cause this. It amplified it and put a big magnifying glass on it, but social media did not cause this. What did cause this is a lot of ideas and concepts that we have not, as a society, progressed far enough in our understanding of what it's like to be in this postmodern society. right? So we are still, in effect, trying to function on 1960s, 70s style logic, where guys are supposed to be the ones going out, getting the bread, doing all this work, and providing for women and doing all this. And we still have laws that are set in stone where it still assumes that women can't take care of themselves, where women are not capable of being able to get an education or work. We as society have not updated our firmware in terms of the dating world. And so instead of recognizing that and realizing, maybe we need to kind of do a little bit of looking into what's going on. Yeah, no, we'll just blame it on the latest technology. Granted, that's something that we have as a species have done a lot. If you look at history, you're going to find a lot of scholars that'll be like, oh, writing is going to make people forget. Oh, you can't have books. It's just a whole new thing of like, this new technology must be the greatest evil because it's shining this massive spotlight on the issues of our society and the fact and things that we don't want to talk about and don't want to fix.
To the king. Although technology makes things easier, it can also make us more atomized. Why go to the mall when I can just tap, 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 buy a new microphone and have it shipped to me in a day? Why hang out with friends when I can get all my social interaction I need from Twitter and streamers? Why go on dates and bother meeting women when I can just tap, 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 Google big boob and get 2 million results? Or see my high school crush's holes on OnlyFans for only $5. Instant dopamine, instant satisfaction, and hey, who even needs a real woman when you could just have an AI girlfriend? We're f***ed. We're so f***ed.
Well, I mean, at the end of the day, that would also be, like I said, we need to badly update society's firmware in terms of dating. We need to explain to people that because it's both men and women, that we need to fucking start treating each other like human beings. I know, it's so hard to understand that concept. But it's like when the dating atmosphere, and I think she has like a female loneliness thing too, but when the dating atmosphere is so toxic that you have MGTOW popping up, where it's literally guys saying, okay, I'm so sick and tired of this, I'm just gonna leave, that it's time to kind of look into it, right? And the funniest thing is, a lot of the troubles that I see and hear on the internet, I don't personally see myself in a small city like where I live. This seems to really affect the major cities, though. But again, it's also because we're trying to force in and basically shoehorn 1960s logic into the modern day. And you have a lot of young women who genuinely are, and I know that people are probably going to say, oh, you're an incel, no, blah, 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 whatever. But you do have a lot of women that prefer and want dudes who earn over $100,000. Like, they want the top 10% of guys. And to them, anybody who's... dude, and literally, FYI, for those who try and say, oh, this is essential. No, it's not. No, it's not. You'll see similar stuff from some of the trans women, too. Instincts come from genetics. Instincts are neurological, right? And not only that, but if you actually look at, but all you have to do is just take a cursory look at cultures around the world and even ancient history. Okay? You're going to tell me that people who, sorry, having issues with my ears here, that people who were, and I'll say it again, poor for the majority of history, evolved this idea that that you're talking about? No. Sorry, no. It's a societally trained idea. It's concepts that have been taught to the West. And if we really want to fix our dating scene, we need to actually start teaching people that no, men are not living wallets. No, women are not living sandwich dispensers. And start teaching people to get along based on their ability to actually hang out with each other, on their ability to actually stand each other and actually have contact. Hang on, I gotta fix this real quick. Anyway, sorry about that. I wasn't trying to show you something gross there. But where I was actually going on is basically saying that people need to start treating each other like human beings. We need to start teaching people to date each other based on mutual interests, likes, personality traits that people can actually get along with, rather than the superficial bullcrap that has been basically taught forever. Because that's actually how a lot of your long-lasting relationships go, is people who can actually tolerate each other, not only tolerate each other, but actually like being around one another because they're able to open up to each other. And we have not taught that to the last couple generations of human beings. And so now this is kind of the result of that.
Dating apps really are the great Satan, and I'm convinced they've completely broken men's brains. Women on dating apps are picky. Women in general are picky, and I mean, naturally we are pickier. You know, we're the ones who carry the babies. At least for now. But on dating apps, you have to admit, it's a little insane. It's safe to say that the commodification of love and the window shopping of dating apps probably has to do a lot with the rise of lonely single men. Men are not—
Well, I would also say that, if I'm being perfectly honest here, that statistic is probably really, really skewed. Because the kind of people that use dating apps are usually people who can't find someone in real life. And there's some normal things, like maybe your town's just too small, maybe you missed out, maybe you were homeschooled, so on and so forth. But for the most part, if you're usually the people that are on these dating apps, that I would guess to some degree, usually have some kind of personality trait that kind of makes them undesirable to an extent, right? So, of course, the statistics are going to be heavily skewed because you're going to have a lot of the guys that are on there that can't find girls normally because their standards are ridiculous. You know, they want that 10 out of 10 model bod with the sandwich dispenser personality, okay? That perfectly submissive, demure girl that's going to do whatever the hell they want. Personally, I'd say that's weird. If you want that, just get a personal robot that has an adult toy function, but, you know, that's just me.
Not just lonely when it comes to dating, they're lonely when it comes to friendship too. According to Vox, Americans are currently in a friendship recession, and men are being hit the hardest. The percentage of men who reported having at least 6 close friendships fell in half since the 90s.
Well,
1 in 5 men say they have no close friendships. Looking at all these statistics, the explosion of figures like Andrew Tate is not surprising at all.
I believe being a man is a blessing because it starts so difficult. I believe that every man is born without any value at all. I think that the world's never going to think you're important unless you make yourself important.
And recently, a new study came out about how young men are moving towards the right. And every other month, we, the liberal, sockdom, leftist, whatever you want to call the space online, performs the same song and dance. What's wrong with men? Why is this happening? Why don't we have a leftist Andrew Tate? We need to push men to the left. Andrew Tate rarely, if ever, talks about politics. Andrew Tate talks about men, and the left only talks about men when they talk about Andrew Tate. A few months ago, during one of—
or they need something, which she does point out in a later movie, in a later video. I don't know why I said movie, but a later video where she's basically brings out the point that the very awful, God's awful way that friggin' the Kamala Harris campaign tried to get dudes to vote for her. Like, oh, cringe. So
One of the
cringy.
monthly song and dances,
Hey,
some
sweetie.
progressive people I follow
Hey,
made the
sweetie
mistake of addressing men's issues. And the even bigger mistake of pointing their finger at their own spaces for not doing enough to address said men's issues.
Recently, there were some statistics by healthcare company Cigna indicating that men are the loneliest generation. And addressing it doesn't mean that you turn your back on issues pertaining to women, but it does mean that we should be focused on what it is in society that is leading to this epidemic, what the left can do to offer solutions, and how we can basically fight back against the more nefarious figures who have filled the void that men are struggling with, people like Jordan Peterson and what have you. Now, recently, Vosh, who's a popular streamer, had tweeted this thread that I think is really, really important to address. He writes, "I cannot stress enough how important it is to understand that 12-year-old white boys on Twitch are not being pulled into fascism because of some Machiavellian desire to preserve and expand their privileges. It's because the right talks to them and the left doesn't."
The response
Oh, the left talks to them, all right. But the left just blames them for freaking everything. You, 12-year-old that has had no actual effect in human society. Everything wrong with society is your fault. You're to blame. That's primarily how the left talks to them. And it turns out, if you talk to people like that, they tend to not want to be around you. Hi, Kitty.
to these tweets and this content were very normal, level-headed, and respectful. Me when I lie.
Do you really want to spend the rest of your life
Oh, come on, Ed.
LMAO, cry about it. Boo f***ing who? Oh no, poor widow men having problems. Boo f***ing who? Grow the f*** up then. Have men considered being smarter? I'm enjoying all these sad little moids and their sad little tweets about their sad, pathetic lives. Sounds like a personal problem.
Speaking of the
compassion
left,
for men in the room with us right now? Maybe men are just not good people then. I'm so fucking tired of people trying to make male loneliness a huge societal problem. Yeah, no, their fifis are not my responsibility, and I shouldn't have to be punished because they can't get their shit together as human beings. Grow the f up. Why are we trying to win these entitled little predators over? The left isn't for them. That's why they go right in the first place. We're all lonely and alienated. It's young men going to the alt-right in droves. The problem isn't our messaging, it's them. It's literally not our problem. Men flock to Andrew Tate not because they're lonely, but because they're bigots. Hope this helps. Nah, it's just misogynists being louder than before and not getting laid. LOL. Cry harder, losers. 90% of all homicides recorded worldwide were committed by male perpetrators. We should just get rid of all males, to be honest. This includes trans women, as they still retain male violence. By the way, you know the Tumblr feminists who were like, all men are sexist and rapists, male tears, penises are evil, blah 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 back in the day? Well, this is them now. Should've just let me cook back then. Listen up, chuckle. I'm white, socially awkward, autistic, in my 40s, ugly, overweight, crippled, got a weird balding pattern, and have bad skin. You know what I didn't do? Choose to become a fascist, because I recognize most of the sort that look like me are the problem. I may be hideously ugly and pathetic, but at least I'm not a fascist. Thank you for your input.
Yes, kitty, give me your loves. The kitty feels the pain of an almond pie. Yes, yes, fuzzy one, yes. Meow. Give me all the loves. Good boy.
Buddy, you're, really helping the situation. The reason young men flock to alt-right MRA movements is because the left gives brain-dead advice to young men. We need to be more compassionate to them. for our own sake. I'm sorry, but how is respect women brain-dead advice? What advice? Don't rape? Don't be a rapist is bad advice? Help, I have no friends or community, I feel suicidal. Have you considered not raping? Act like a
You know, the dumbest part of this too is like, dudes are taught not to rape, or sorry, not to grape, I guess. A lot. Turns out the people that do that just don't care. Kind of like, you know, a lot of stuff. People know they're not supposed to do it. They do it anyway because they either don't give a crap or they don't think that they're going to be caught or punished for it. It's usually how that works. And it's more likely the former, that they just don't care. Like, there's normally something mentally broken in them, so they just don't care.
A decent fucking human being, it's not hard, is brain-dead advice? Brain-dead advice like, get consent and don't be a Nazi and women are people. Walking up to men struggling with loneliness and depression like,
kids, don't be racist.
Incredible. Here's my actual advice I would give to my teen boys as a leftist. 1. Always get enthusiastic consent. 2. Save the planet. 3. Don't say that. It's actually kind of racist. Like, what the f is this? How does this address men and their issues? It doesn't. Why does their advice always seem to be, become a liberal? Hey men, here's how to fix all your problems. Agree with me politically. Men flock to the MRA movement because they're the largest
cult.
Beneficiaries of
And that's
MRA
coming from
shit.
someone who
Imagine
actually
saying
was a
women
member of a
flock
cult.
to women's rights activism because they're the biggest beneficiaries of women's rights. Like, no f***ing shit. Let's be honest. Aside from procreation purposes, men have become obsolete. Most women can find other methods of achieving orgasm without a man there. And speaking as a man, most of us are horrid to be around, and I don't blame any woman for just saying, no thanks.
The sad part is it's kind of gotten the same way on the flip side of the coin. It really is. It's literally people just don't know how to talk to each other or treat each other anymore. At all.
Oh my god, dude. This is what every Just Pearly Things tweet looks like to me. Just with the genders swapped. This is pathetic. You know what fixes male loneliness? Jerking off. As a man, I'll say this. Sit down, shut up, and beat one out. You'll feel better. I promise. Yeah, guys, just beat one out. Just off. Just watch porn. Batman will be very disappointed in all of
I got a better idea. How about go out, go to your local game store, stop crying about whether it's nerdy or not, and just go join like a D&D group or something. That's what I did. Friends, a group of friends that you visit every single week.
you. It's so funny how men feel entitled to a girlfriend. No, you sexist freak. When one side is like, wanting a girlfriend is sexist entitlement, and the other side is like, here's how to get a girlfriend. I don't know, bro. What happened to males just kicking the bucket? Now they just come on here and try to make their loneliness and misery into some social justice issue. Oh, trust me, men are still kicking the bucket. And when they're not giving mind-blowing advice like just to be a liberal, they're outright dismissing men's issues completely. It's not our job to educate them. Since men created the problem, they need to take steps to fix it. We have other things to care about. Men can figure out their own problems that they created. Again, it's not women's jobs to change how men are socialized. It's a man issue, and y'all need to address that amongst yourselves. Men created their own problems.
Why does
Men
this
can
hurt
solve
my
their own
soul?
problems. The left is busy. Why does the well-being of other people concern me? Leftist, by the way. It's all systemic issues and societal factors and blah 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 until it's a man and then suddenly it's pull yourselves up by your bootstraps. This problem is just a consequence of the patriarchy. Now take a wild guess about which gender created the patriarchy. Solve your own problems and leave women alone. These people rightly mock the bootstraps rhetoric until the subject is a man, and then it's bootstraps all the way down. They would never talk about any other group this way. It's wild. And it's kind of like both sides are telling men to pull themselves up by their bootstraps, but one is like, I'll show you how, and the other is like, fuck off. And when they're not telling men to straight up fuck off. They're giving the 200 IQ answer that nobody has ever heard before. Just show your emotions, bro. And I'm not dismissing this problem, okay? I've made videos talking about this. Oh, you're crying at your grandfather's funeral? Okay, it. And studies have shown that men are scared to be vulnerable, even around the homies. And can you blame them when the media says stupid like this? Fellas, is it woke to open up to your fellow men and discuss history? Men are socialized to believe strength, dominance, and stoicism are behaviors of a real man. Is it any surprise that—
Yes, because it's totally woke to have hobbies and talk to each other about it and trade tips and tricks and stuff about it. Yeah, no. Yeah, it's true. It's gotten bad enough where, like, dudes literally can't do jack without the media and certain individuals basically butting in.
that men are
It's not
lonely and have
surprising.
less
Hell, we
friends
can't
nowadays?
even game anymore.
You have to be vulnerable to make friends. Don't tell me there aren't systemic problems affecting men. Now, while a lot of this may be true, men have been socialized this way for centuries, and this is all relatively a new phenomena. Toxic masculinity has existed forever. If anything,
Actually, no. If you actually look at history, men have only recently been socialized like this. Literally. A lot of dudes, if we're being honest, you look at dudes used to be perfectly okay with sleeping in the same bed. If you had men's clubs where guys would basically go and sit in a hot tub together and play poker and talk about their life and talk about and literally you wanted a good example of this was the second Zorro movie where Antonio Banderas is literally looking all these guys. He's like, so you're telling me my options are beg for my wife's forgiveness or spend the rest of my life basically sitting in a hot tub full of naked men whining all day? I think I'll go beg for my wife's forgiveness.
there's less toxic masculinity nowadays. The cultural embrace of, like, gender nonconformity, femboys, Harry Styles in a dress, Barbie movie, blah 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 blah. My point is, toxic masculinity did not just appear in the mid-2010s, but social media did, and the internet did, and the rise of dating apps did, and the housing crisis, and living in a country where the wealth inequality is worse than it was during the Gilded Age. That all happened recently. Oh my god, the privileged life these poor little boys must have, that their biggest problem is being lonely, i.e. so insufferable that nobody wants to sleep with them. So much more pressing than the poor distribution of wealth causing people—
You also notice, like, all of this is about sex, too. Like, it's not, oh, nobody wants to hang with them because nobody actually taught them how to basically integrate into society properly or make friends or be anything or beyond just being cannon fodder or work fodder. And then we basically sit there and talk crap about them forever and ever and ever and expect them to be okay with it. Yeah, that's oh god.
to suffer food and housing insecurity. Boo-hoo, you're lonely and have no friends and are suicidal, wah. Because feeling alienated under capitalism apparently isn't a thing. People are working harder and longer while wages have been stagnant, men have been dropping out of college like flies, and what does that get you? Poor men. Which, since women are doing amazing in college now, and many are now out-earning men, this most of the time leads to single men, which then leads to lonely men, which leads to depressed men, which leads to the high suicide rate. In my opinion, leftism at a policy level does a great job addressing the shitty material conditions that in part lead to the problems that men are facing, but then absolutely drops the ball when it comes to everything and anything related to men's cultural issues. Many such cases. And why would a struggling man even want to move left when the left appears actively hostile to them?
The question—
I mean, that's a good point. Now, I don't think this is, like, unlike Schuenhead, I don't think it's capitalism that's the problem here. I do agree that, yes, wages have stagnated and stuff like that, but that's not capitalism. That's more or less corporatism, which is basically a weird marriage of capitalism and socialism to an extent. But if you really want to think about it, from a genuine capitalist idea, you generally want to pay people really well so that they'll not go and run over to your competitors who actually will pay them well and actually give them more money. There's also another fact that I was always raised, weirdly enough, and I always learned at a very early age, that you generally shouldn't rely on a job to give you an income. Because, and this is something I was already taught as a kid, that your job can fire you at any point in time. Any point in time. They can literally decide that they no longer need you, and they can just cut you loose. So I was always taught how to be an entrepreneur, how to invest my money in the stock market, and what to look for, and how to look for opportunities and stuff to do that. The reason I'm basically broke where I'm at is because my mother, who gave me those influences, died when I was 16, and so I ended up getting pressured a lot by my dad, who was the traditional get a job, get a college degree kind of guy. Of course, he stopped doing the whole college degree thing when my sister tried to go to college, ended up dropping out because they basically chewed her up and spat her out, which, yeah, that's a whole nother issue. But ideally, if I had the genuine capital to be able to sit there and go, oh, look, I know exactly what to do with this. But it's not even just that, actually, if I'm being honest with myself. Sometimes when it comes to the stock market, I can be kind of like a little magpie, or something will come up and I'll sell whatever shares I have to fix it. And shares aren't really that expensive. You can get shares in companies like Ford and the like for about the same you would spend on a McDonald's meal. But again, you're dealing with people who are not raised or taught the same information that I was taught as a kid. And so, yeah, of course they're going to be broke. Of course, right? I'm ADHD. I'm broke partially because of my own mental issues, but also because at the same time, I'm kind of lazy. There's a whole list of, I could basically say, of why I'm technically broke. But, I mean, shoot, you can invest in Subaru for $8.88, and they pay a nice little dividend, too. You know, 3.98% dividend. You'd be lucky to get that in any kind of savings, and you get that every 3 months. The thing, by the way, you need to understand with shares is why I would invest in something like Walmart, because you're paid by each individual share. So I can spend $126 to buy one Walmart share and get paid 7 cents, or I can spend that much more and get way more on Subaru or Ford and get a lot more bang for my buck. It really is about knowing how to be financially savvy, but we don't teach our kids to be financially savvy. We teach them how to rack up a crap ton of debt and get angry and mad because we've taught them to basically rely on a job or an employer to take care of them.
Of whether or not the hashtag online left is enough to appeal to hashtag men has become the question du jour. And like, men have most of the money, authority, and do most of the murdering and assaulting.
The average young man in America isn't Jeff Bezos. Also, why did this motherfucker just FBI crime statistics at me? Men do the most murder. Okay?
They like having all of the stuff they don't deserve. They like that. They want it to stay that way because it suits them. Because of the stuff, telling people they're special and deserve all the nice shit that they have, that's going to be an easier sell 10 times out of 10 than like saying, hey, maybe you should have less stuff and other people should have more.
Leftism is when you don't have a lot of stuff. We're gonna take your stuff. You sound like a 65-year-old Fox News boomer's idea of what the left is. Are you a CIA agent? The right is saying to men, you will own a house. You will have beautiful children with your loving wife. You will have privacy. You will have free speech. You will own things, and you will be happy. And the left is like,
they like having all of the stuff they don't deserve.
But don't get...
Which is funny because it's also like, who are you to say I don't deserve it? Like, if you're in my position and you're working 40 hours a week at a retail job, I didn't get everything that I have, my stuff, from some invisible privilege. I got it by working my ass off and paying for it. That's how I got it. Everything I own because I worked for it. So yes, I am entitled to all of my stuff.
Don't get me wrong, Republicans will not do shit. The Republican Party will not do shit. The establishment in general will not do shit to help any of this. But the right is, at least rhetorically, offering men something other than nothing or the eternal HR department. Every time this Discord comes up, there's people like, we need a leftist Andrew Tate. We need masculine role models on the left. But the fact is, it's hard for progressives to organically appeal to men, because a large part of progressivism is oppressive hierarchies, and men are oppressors. Making progressivism look appealing to young men is an uphill battle from the start. And although it's funny to laugh at insane people on Twitter, as always, there have been a lot of left-wing content creators talking about men's issues. If you would have told me this would be a thing 9 years ago, I would not believe you, because anyone talking about men's issues back in the day was called an MRA or a pick-me. But lately I have seen a lot of—
Incel is another one. Me, I'm pretty, like I said, I guarantee there's probably going to be a handful of people that are going to call me an incel. Between me and you, nah, it's pretty voluntary. I'm perfectly okay living by myself and being by myself. I'll have my natural lapses of, like, I do want somebody in my life, but that's normal. We have that drive as a species to want to find a mate and procreate. But for the most part, am I going to go out of my way to find one? No. No. Sorry, I got my own issues to deal with. I got my own dumpster fire to put out. I don't need someone else's right now.
Of good pro-men lefty content, and I'll put some links to some below. I don't agree with all the points they say, but I recommend watching. It's much better than—
They like having all of the stuff they don't deserve.
But the issue is a lot of this lefty pro-men content, it's always framed around, how do we get them? As if men are just pawns and tools for your personal politics. How do we make the left more appealing to men? How do we stop lonely—
Yeah, gee, it's almost like, it's not like men don't get treated like that all the time, every single day of the week. That couldn't also be a major contributing effect to, like, all of this. The fact that guys are constantly treated as pawns to a game. Or, again, meat for the grinder. For war,
men
or whatever else you
moving
want
to
to throw
Andrew
us.
Tate, instead of just, how do we help men? And I think that's a really big issue. Both sides seem to treat men as political fodder. Disposable soldiers in the culture war and real war. Anyway, misandry is real.
Yep.
Oh good! Finally! And while it doesn't systemically affect cis men, it most certainly affects trans men. Oh. Y'all talking about misandry doesn't harm men, and trans men are right there reading this shit, by the way. I see, now we only care about misandry because it affects trans men. Everyone stop! It's affecting a group I care about now. I love how the rhetoric just, like, evolved overnight, from male tears to cis male tears. And I just have to ask, why aren't you including trans men in your misandry,
Nobody told me how lonely being a man is. We knew what depth felt like before we transitioned. We knew what it felt like to, like, have people want to hug us and to have people want to talk to us and to have a community. And then you transition and you're just a guy walking down the street that people cross the street so that they're not near you. And friendships are so much harder to build. What's hard is none of this invalidates how real and raw women and people who are in marginalized groups feel about cis white men. All of that's valid. But I also now understand why the suicide rate is so much higher in men.
Welcome to being a man. Here's your complimentary isolation and yellow pillow. I love how even when he's experiencing the issues of being a man, he's like, this doesn't invalidate people hating men. Come on, bro. Men struggling don't want to be lectured about the patriarchy. They don't want to be told it's all their fault. They don't want to be told they're part of the problem, because first of all, they're not. The average 20-year-old didn't build society. They go to work, come home, off to sissy hypno fetish porn, and go to bed like everyone else. I've talked about this before, but a lot of men's value comes from the money they make, unfortunately. Men are natural providers, and if they have nobody to provide for...
Again, see, that's the whole thing I don't like, too, is that people keep saying, oh, it's the natural thing. It's like, no, it's not. It really isn't. You can look at any other culture where men are not in charge, and if this was a natural or instinctual thing, you wouldn't have that. Right? Men would dominate every culture. Everywhere, every time. They don't. Here's also a little bit of history for you. The earliest societies, before the great civilizations and everything like that, and even in some of the greater civilizations, women were in charge. The earliest deities worshipped were female. The earliest priesthoods and spiritual leaders and leaders of tribes were women, because women were seen to be close to gods, because they were the only gender who could spawn life. Okay? That's why. In fact, here's a little tidbit. As an ancient Egyptian reconstructionist who has to genuinely work and look at historical data in order to actually do a modern reconstruction of ancient Egyptian religion, this might shock you, but Isis, the wife of Osiris, predates Osiris, and he's supposed to be the firstborn of Nun. Isis, as a goddess, predates potentially Osiris and Ra. She is effectively, as a deity, older than both of them. However, over the centuries, as men became more dominant, she started taking a lesser role. You'll see a lot of that in a lot of ancient civilizations and societies and ancient religions. When you really start looking into them and really start realizing that, believe it or not, women had a lot more rights than people think. So the fact of the matter is, no, none of this. Women are not just naturally greedy. Men are not just natural providers. We have been brainwashed into doing these things by a society that feels that it's intrinsic to its survival, but it is not natural. And you just have to look at history and look at people who are not the rich, aristocratic morons, but look at the down-to-the-earth poor folk who have the option of either we can sit here and play gender politics or we can survive. And I guarantee you're going to find, surprisingly enough, that when it comes to live or die, gender stereotypes or gender roles fly out the frickin' window. Nobody cares if the person bringing home the food is a man or a woman, if the choice is somebody goes out and gets the food or we all starve to death.
They get into findom or send random girls on the internet money. I'm just kidding, but the fact is, a lot of men simply feel like they don't have a purpose anymore. Whether a job or a career that's fulfilling and pays well, or a woman or family to protect and take care of and provide for.
Or, a hobby where they're actually encouraged to explore themselves and figure out what they want in life. Do I want, and what they are actually interested in. turns out that if you give people the ability to explore their interests and their wants, their hobbies, their desires, they're usually a lot happier. If you curtail all of that and say, hey, your job in life isn't to figure out yourself, you're drone number 327. Now go to your cubicle and sit there forever. And if you don't find someone to procreate with, you're a loser. You're a garbage person. That's literally what's going on in our society. And it happens to both men and women. We are not allowed to genuinely explore ourselves, even though there is actual capitalistic value to that. But you have corporations that are basically held aloft by the government, not by anything that they actually produce anymore. You have literal companies that are straight up zombies being held aloft with government cash. They haven't produced anything of any value in the last 100 years, but they're still around because because the government feels like they need them to provide jobs rather than just funding the next generation of replacements or funding their competitors so they actually have to get off their butts and do something.
Men are lacking purpose, and a man will crawl through broken glass for a purpose. But you know who does make them feel like they have a purpose? No, not him.
I say that life as a man is exceptionally difficult. I say the most beautiful and the most terrifying thing about being a man is you're born without value. Society doesn't care about you.
The absolute audacity to act shocked that Andrew Tate is scooping these guys up after a decade of lol male tears is insane. Andrew Tate isn't the solution to men's problems, but he is.
And it's not just Andrew Tate. You got Joe Rogan, you have Tim Pool. And it's funny because the left is saying, oh, we need a left-wing Joe Rogan, we need a left-wing Tim Pool. Both of those guys were left-wing. But then, because of the ever reality of the Inquisition from the left and the constant, you're not a real leftist if you don't believe X, Y, and Z, push them to the right. It's that thing of if you tell somebody that they're the reason for everything wrong in reality all the time, every time, yeah, they're going to rebel against you. They're going to tell you to F off. And they're going to side with your enemies. They're going to side with people who are against you as a means of basically hurting you as much as they possibly can. Because people, believe it or not, weirdly enough, are going to defend themselves. If they feel like they are being needless and wrongfully attacked, they will protect themselves. It's a natural human instinct to do, to protect yourself from threats and to side with people who are going to show you compassion, who show you mercy, and who show you a sense of community and strength and hope.
It's talking to them. The fact is, you did not care about them for years, and even now you just want to recruit them, not help them. And that's why you will fail. And hey, maybe I'll be the Andrew Tate of the left. Men, listen up. Wash your penis. So I guess I'll leave you guys with a question. Why do you think male loneliness has been increasing? What are your solutions for this problem? And are you dealing with loneliness? And I will see you guys next time with a...
So, I mean, obviously, yeah, at this point, I can't wait to see how long this video is, because of the sheer ranting that I've been doing. But no, like, yeah, my solution really is, simply put, that both sides need to start learning how to treat each other like human beings. On the women's side of things, we need to start teaching women the responsibility that comes with the rights that they have. If you can earn money for yourself and go to college and take care of yourself, it should not be the responsibility of a man to take care of you. You should be A-okay with dating somebody who earns less than you. Okay? As long as that person treats you well and treats you kindly and lets you be vulnerable with them and shares a lot of the same ideas and a lot of the same interests and concepts, and you can actually be around each other and like being around each other, that should be something that both sides need to be focusing on. We don't, because society has basically brainwashed us and programmed us to believe that, again, for like, I know it's super simplistic of what I'm saying, but it's pretty much the case of what society has been doing, where men are taught to almost see women as sandwich dispensers, and women are almost taught to see men as nothing but walking wallets. And if we as a society want to actually thrive, then we need to toss those ideas away. We need to start teaching women, look, men are not walking wallets. They're human beings. They have feelings, they have emotions, they have weaknesses, strengths. There are things that they're going to like and dislike. They have hobbies, they have dreams, hopes, and interests. And you should try and find, and if you're interested in dating a man, you should try and find a man whose hopes, dreams, and interests align with your own. Same with a dude. And we need to teach people to not be crappy human beings, to not sit there and blame each other for being the fault of society's problems, and realize the real problem, the real reason society is falling apart is not because of social media. It's because, as I've said before, we still are running on essentially software from the 1960s and 70s. We're basically trying to force ourselves to live in an I Love Lucy universe. Or for you younger folks, we're trying to make ourselves basically live in WandaVision and the black and white scenes. And that's not how the world works. That's not how reality works. You can't expect one gender of people to basically pay for the other half of the population when that other half of the population can damn well take care of themselves. And on the same token, these guys also need to have a reevaluation of understanding that, yes, if you want a girlfriend, if you want somebody to be around you, then you have to work on your personality. You have to find a way to be charming. You have to develop interests and hobbies and go to places where those interests and hobbies are frequented. Go learn how to play Warhammer 40K, bro. Go learn how to play Dungeons and Dragons, or go to the library and read. Heaven forbid, go to the library, read. Go to, start going to the movies again. Right? Have an interest in movies, have an interest in music. Start going to concerts if you can, when you can. Matter of fact, there are plenty of free music festivals. You don't even have to have money to go to some of these things. Just find your local free music festival and go. Hang out there. Have a good time. You find people who have an interest in the same kind of music and just say hello and talk to them and basically just be a good person and be like, hey, what band are you excited for in this music festival? What genre of film do you like? So on and so forth. Rather than being scared of strangers, which is something we've literally been taught as little kids, and I understand why, but that's also part of the problem. We've taught little children, people from the ground up, you have to be terrified of strangers, stranger danger, and then be questioning, well, darn, why are all of these grown people not talking to each other? Why would they rather prefer the safety of social media where this person can't do awful, evil things to them? which has been literally what we've been telling them is going to happen all their lives. But that's enough ranting out of me, guys. I hope to see you in the next video. Stay safe, my friends, and take care.
Shadows fade and ghosts retreat. In the calm of night we meet. Monsters lurking in the mind. Leave the fear and peace you'll find. Creeping whispers now are still. In the silence feel the thrill. Horror fades with morning light. Time to rest and feel alright. Isaac and friends, we brave the stars. Through the halls and chilling dares. Hit subscribe and join the ride. In this dark we do confide. Echoes fade like distant war. Tomorrow's field will bring much more. Join us next time on this quest, where the shadows never rest. Thank you all for facing dread. In the dark we make our bed. Horror's end is near at last. Do not scare, let's have a blast. Isaac and friends, we've braved the skies. Through the haunt and chilling dares. Hit subscribe and join the ride. In this dark we do